This week on Martha Runs the World, it's my special annual Haunted Running Trails. So sit back or go for a run and enjoy these spooky stories from San Francisco. That's right. All the haunted running trails this week are from my hometown, which is a pretty spooky place, San Francisco. So enjoy. Hi, and welcome to episode 302 of Martha Runs the World. This week, it is my special annual episode, Haunted Running Trails. This time, it is all about San Francisco, my city of birth. I decided to focus on San Francisco because there is a lot going on here in the paranormal vein. Many, many years ago, well, not that many, I guess, I was born at St. Luke's Hospital in the Mission. I grew up in the peninsula, but I moved back into San Francisco a couple decades ago, and I'm still here. Not sure how much longer I'm going to be here. That's up in the air, but right now, I'm here and I'm enjoying running here. I'm enjoying a lot of the places that I can go, and I want to share some of the more haunted areas with you. I do consider myself well-versed in San Francisco history. And one of the things San Francisco has a lot of are stories of hauntings, ghosts, and creepy things that go bump in the night. So that's why I thought I would focus on one city in particular and give you some things that I know of and I've learned of while researching this episode. A few things first. I've only included locations you can run past and enjoy from the outside. You may not necessarily be able to go inside, but you can see what they look like on the outside. For this reason, I'm not including places like Alcatraz because obviously you can't run there. You should go visit Alcatraz if you haven't already. Sure, it's touristy, okay, but it's a real part of American history, and it's a pretty cool place. There's just a lot to see there. If you get a chance to go to Alcatraz in the summer, try to go on one of their nighttime tours. It's very cool, especially if you go like in August or September. The weather is nicer at night, creepy and cool at the same time. I'm also not including any locations outside of San Francisco. There are lots of places all over the Bay Area that I could talk about that would be great, but there's so many within the city of San Francisco itself that talking about places outside of the city would take up way too much time, so I'm only limiting it to San Francisco City itself. And this is for fun. I do this every year. I do one episode for Halloween every year about haunted trails, and they may not be trails, they may be roads, but it fits in with the theme. And if you don't believe in such things, just put your disbeliefs aside and have fun. Just let your imagination run wild and think about these places in just a fun way and enjoy, because that's what it's about. It's about fun. It's about learning a little bit about history and enjoying your run and enjoying this time of year. San Francisco is a small enough city that you can string many of these places I talk about together into one run of a few miles and get to know them. I've grouped things together into districts. And here's a fun note. You can tell a native San Franciscan from a transplant because a transplant and a new transplant will tell you where they live by giving you the zip code. I don't know zip codes. Zip codes vary. A zip code doesn't tell me where you live. A zip code can take up a few different districts. I have no idea where zip codes are. But you tell me the district name you live in, and I know where you are. And I'm not including the made-up district names that the real estate agents give. They make up district names all the time, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the real district names. You tell me you're from the Mission, I know where that is. You tell me you're from the Castro, I know where that is. Noe Valley, the Marina, North Beach, Civic Center, Outer Mission, Outer Sunset, Outer Richmond, these kind of things. I know where those are. That's what a native San Franciscan will tell you. But don't give me your zip code, 94123, 94109, 94112. I don't know where these are. For example, my zip code encompasses 3 districts. You could be in 3 different districts with my zip code. It doesn't tell me anything. So now, all those little introductions aside, let's get started. Let's begin with Chinatown. Now, there are so many different haunted establishments in Chinatown, I could probably make a whole episode just in Chinatown alone. Chinatown is an interesting spot. It was manufactured actually after the 1906 earthquake as a way to get tourists into the city. I'm not going to get into the whole history of California because that's a whole nother podcast and another subject. But unfortunately, California has a terrible history when it comes to race relations. And it was the only part of town where Chinese immigrants were allowed to live. But to bring tourists into the area, they created the Chinese-looking buildings. They're beautiful buildings. There's a lot of history there. But I'm going to talk about one particular house. It's called the Donaldina Cameron House. It's on Sacramento Street, and if you take the number 1 Muni bus, you go past it all the time. It's a red brick building, and yes, I've gone past it many, many times. Like so many stories of haunted places, this one has much tragedy from the beginning to the end. It starts with hope, and it starts with love and heart. And it was originally known as the Presbyterian Mission House. This was the place that Donaldina Cameron, a 19-year-old woman from New Zealand, came to help young Chinese girls and women who had come to the U.S. to either join their actual families or with forged papers in hand that said they were already members of families. What happened is that they were instead sold into slavery or forced into prostitution. This happened a lot in those days. So she came to help them to get out of their terrible existence. And the Presbyterian Mission was committed to rescuing these girls. There was a whole underground railroad in Chinatown to help these girls get out of slavery. Cameron was also known as the Angry Angel of Chinatown, and she was able to help more than 3,000 Chinese girls and women escape over the course of her career. The building was destroyed in the 1906 earthquake. Cameron risked her life to save the logbook that proved the women could stay with her from the fires. And it was rebuilt, this time with the purpose of the mission in mind, including secret passageways, sealed doorways, so the girls could hide safely from brothel owners, slave traders, and the local police. The basement was specifically designed to ensure very few people knew about it. There was no entry into it from the house, only from an underground passageway that led to the street. Unfortunately, when a fire broke out years later, an unknown number of Chinese girls and women hiding in that basement were unable to escape and died. People claim to have seen white figures in the background of the photos and feel the spirits of those who died. Today, the Cameron House serves the needs of low-income and immigrant youth and families in San Francisco and is always looking for volunteers. Just don't try to get into the basement. It has been sealed shut. So there's lots of activity there. If we move from Chinatown to Russian Hill, which is the opposite side if you go towards Telegraph Hill and Russian Hill, there's 7 distinct huge hills in San Francisco. There's like 40-something hills, actually, but there's 7 big ones. And then Russian Hill is one of them. 1000 Lombard Street, at the foot of the second most crooked street in San Francisco. Yes, the second. Vermont Street is the most crooked street. So don't say that Lombard is the crookedest. It is not. At the foot of the second most crooked street in San Francisco sits an ornate home that once belonged to jet setter and socialite Pat Muntandon. Everything was fine until one time she hosted a party and hired astrologists, palm readers, tarot card experts, and crystal ball gazers. Allegedly, one tarot card reader did not get the drink he was promised, and he laid a curse upon her and her home, swearing she would never have any happy moments in that house again. My gosh, dude, that guy holds a grudge. After that, the house had a perpetual chill no matter what temperature the thermometer was set to. Doors were locked from the inside. Blood-like stains grew on the ceilings, and it was burglarized. Her dog, Doug, began acting strangely, barking in the middle of the night and scratching and gnawing at his fur. Montadon was also attacked by a man while on a date. He attempted to kidnap her, but she managed to escape. The biggest tragedy, however, happened when Montadon was out of town and her dear friend, Mary Louise Ward, was staying at her house. A fire broke out, and when the fire department arrived, the front door and the door to the primary bedroom were locked. When they finally opened the door, Mary Louise was found face down dead on the bed, but it wasn't from the flames or even smoke inhalation. In fact, they were never able to determine the cause, only saying that it likely happened before the fire even started. My goodness. I mean, when you see that, when you see that tarot card reader, get that man a drink, quick! Okay, Pack Heights. Now, Pack Heights is an interesting neighborhood. There are more haunted buildings in Pacific Heights than anywhere in San Francisco, and this might be because there are more older buildings in that section of the city. Remember that the 1906 earthquake and subsequent fire burned nearly every building east of Van Ness. Now Market Street is like the main thoroughfare. Back before 1906, Van Ness was the main thoroughfare. And the structures east of Van Ness burned to the ground during the fire. West of Van Ness, they were saved. So Van Ness was the fire break, and it saved every house west of Van Ness. It's also a terrific neighborhood to run in, especially if you want to get some hill training, because there are lots of hills. It's beautiful, though. The buildings are gorgeous. It's a wonderful neighborhood. I suggest getting a few miles in. You'll get some good training, and you'll see some beautiful, beautiful architecture. And great views, too, as well, of the bay. First building I want to talk about is the Whittier Mansion. William Franklin Whittier, a railroad magnate, built this 30-room mansion in 1894 as a gift to his wife, who was never able to live in it as she died in a carriage accident before it was completed. He died in the home years later of natural causes, and his son Billy, known for being lazy, very much into partying, sold it in the 1930s to the German Reich. It operated as a German consulate from 1938 to 1941, when it is alleged that it housed German spies. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of secrets in that building. It was seized by the U.S. in 1941, used by the California Historical Society as their headquarters for a short time, and now is a private residence again. Although one doesn't necessarily need to begrudge anyone who wants to live in a home with over 30 rooms, just in case one does, they can take satisfaction in knowing that the home has been said to be haunted by all sorts of ghosts. Some say it's German spies. Some say it's Billy. And perhaps the saddest of all, some say that they have seen a shadowy figure who is thought to be the ghost of William Whittier, still waiting for his wife to join him in the house she was never able to call home. How many buildings have been built for the loves of their life who was never able to join them because they passed too soon in life? I guess if you're going to build a house for your loved one, don't make it so grandiose that they die before it's finished. It's a little one-room shack. Okay, at least it's something they can enjoy while they're still living, right? Okay, the Queen Anne Hotel. This is very famous for being haunted. In every show about hauntings in San Francisco, and every book about hauntings, and every article, they're going to talk about the Queen Anne. It's at Sutter and Octavia Streets. It's real near Japantown, which is a fun place to go and have lunch, go run past all these places, and then grab some sushi to go because you don't want to eat in the restaurant because you're just on a run and you don't smell too good. So you can sit outside and have some sushi. It's very nice. This 1889 Victorian mansion was first constructed as Miss Mary Lake's School for Young Ladies, a finishing school run by Mary Lake, a school teacher and the mistress of Senator James G. Fair, who built it in part so that his daughters could move to San Francisco to be close to him, but also because it was the school teacher's biggest dream. Mary Lake loved her job and taking care of her charges, so she was devastated when it closed in 1896 because of financial difficulties. So devastated that she returned to the building after her death in 1904. That's dedication, right? The building changed ownership many times and became the Queen Anne Hotel in 1980. If anything, the hotel is a perfect fit, and there's a friendly spirit who is there, possibly Mary Lake looking after the guests. She is frequently spotted or felt in room 410, and that was once her office, and she's always eager to help lend a hand. She is said to have unpacked suitcases, tidied up, even tucked the covers around people as they slept. That would freak me out if I woke up and the covers were tucked in. Whoa, what is happening here? Okay, Mary Ellen Pleasant Memorial Park. It's said that now this is in Lower Pack Heights, and that's what we call Pacific Heights, Pack Heights. It is said that Mary Ellen Pleasant, the mother of human rights in California, first African-American self-made millionaire, and a general badass, I would say, haunts the 6 eucalyptus trees she planted at 1661 Octavia, at the site of a 30-room mansion she built with her business partner, banker Thomas Bell. She worked as a conductor on the Underground Railroad in New England, and when it became too dangerous, she knew she had to leave. Realizing there was an opportunity to make money cooking and providing lodging for men seeking fortune during the gold rush, she moved to San Francisco, where she made wise investments based on conversations she overheard wealthy men having while she served them meals. She established boarding houses, laundries, restaurants, while also helping former enslaved people with transportation, housing, jobs, legal battles. The papers wrote salacious and untrue things about her, but she never let them deter her while she fought for equality. Her finances were completely entangled with those of her longtime partner, Thomas Bell, and when he toppled over a banister in their home and fell to his death in 1892, she lost most of her estate, and his wife ordered her out of the house. She died of poverty in 1904. The mansion was demolished in 1920, but 6 eucalyptus trees she planted remain in what is now known as Mary Ellen Pleasant Memorial Park, the smallest park in San Francisco and a place she still frequents. The site is known to spook dogs, send chills down people's spines, and if you visit at night, don't be scared if a nut hits you in the head. That's just Mary Ellen Pleasant having a bit of fun. Atherton House in Pacific Heights. Rich, lazy, and unambitious George Atherton, the town of Atherton was named after his father, was a bit of an embarrassment to his mother, who built the mansion in 1990 California Street in 1881 after his father died. George and his wife Gertrude Franklin lived in the mansion while he was alleged to have suffered bouts of cruelty and humiliation at the hands of both women, who were known to be quite domineering. In an attempt to escape their clutches, George Atherton set sail for Chile with his naval officer cousin. He was not even halfway there when his kidneys failed and he died. The sailor stuffed his body in a barrel of rum to preserve it and sent it back to the mansion. Oh my goodness. That is allegedly when the incessant knocking on the walls and the opening and closing of doors began. His mother moved out, but voices in the night, cold winds blowing through the house, and other hauntings were too much for the string of new owners. Finally, in 1923, Carrie Rousseau purchased the house and learned to live with George's ghost. Well, kind of. She and her 50 cats living only in the ballroom until she died in 1974. The mansion was transformed into an apartment building, but even today, there are tenants who hear the knocking and feel the cold wind created by a man who is so miserable there, but also refuses to leave. Oh, that must be fun. On California Street, Pacific Heights to Nob Hill, in 1876, Flora Somerton, an 18-year-old member of one of Nob Hill's wealthy families, was told by her parents that she was due to marry a significantly older man whom she did not love. The engagement party was quite the affair, and everyone who was anyone was invited. But right before her father made the official announcement, a combination of fear, anger, and guts ignited a fire in Flora, and she fled the party wearing her elaborate and flowing beaded gown, never to be seen again. Flora's parents and husband-to-be expended all of their resources searching for her, but couldn't find her. She was a total ghost until 50 years later, when her body was found in a boarding house in Butte, Montana in 1926, of all places. She was spotted many years later walking down the middle of California Street in tears, wearing the same dress from her engagement party. Keep an eye out on foggy nights. You may see her there. And California Street, it goes through, it extends a long ways, and you may be able to see her from Pac Heights all the way up to Nob Hill. And in the financial district of 555 California, built in 1969 as the world headquarters of Bank of America, and that's what we old-timers call the APG&E building. It's the same building, that big, tall building. It was the tallest building in San Francisco before the Transamerica building and before the Salesforce building. Shortly after its opening, reports of poltergeist activity happened throughout the building. Cold spots moving from one room to another, files flying off shelves. An employee working late one night reported seeing his own phone move inside off the hook. The source of the hauntings is unknown. Some theorize it's from victims of the 1906 earthquake. Others claim it's other things, maybe the collective energy of so many women and men controlled with the world's money from Bank of America. Now, B of A got bought out by Nations Bank and moved to North Carolina, and things have been quiet ever since, so who knows? Haskell House at Fort Mason. Now we'll move to Fort Mason. Fort Mason used to be run by the Army. The U.S. Army, along with the Presidio, was all Army owned until they closed the Army base down there. Then it became national parkland. Senator David C. Broderick was an ambitious political climber and an outspoken abolitionist in the Democrat Party. His buddy, California Chief Justice David S. Terry, who was known for getting into fights and shanking people, on the other hand, was a staunch supporter of slavery and advocated for the extension into California. When Terry lost re-election in 1859, he blamed Broderick for engineering the loss and challenged him to a duel on the edge of Lake Merced with the idea that whoever was left standing would win the argument of whether or not California should have slavery. Both pistols had hair triggers, but it was Broderick's that discharged prior to the final count. He just had to stand there while Terry took an easy aim at him and fired, hitting his lung. Broderick was taken back to the home of his friend Leonidas Haskell, where he languished in pain for 3 days until he died. This event became known as the last duel in California, and Broderick would become a martyr in the anti-slavery movement. After the Union Army took over the surrounding area in 1863, many captains lived in the Haskell House. The families of the captains have claimed to see shadows move across the rooms, light flashing, and plants tipped over. One colonel even felt the presence of someone watching over him whenever he took a shower, and a captain said that when he and his family joked about the presence of ghosts, fixtures and buildings began crashing to the floor. They stopped joking, and everything stayed put. Oops. And there's a really nice area, Land's End, where the Palace of Legion of Honor is, and it's a beautiful area to go run. So this is a perfect area for a run. You can run at Land's End. You can run past the Legion of Honor there. And San Francisco has always had limited sought after real estate. Back in the 1800s, when people looked at a cemetery, they didn't see resting places for loved ones. They saw land to sell and the potential for their own property values to go up. This led to the ending of new burials in 900 and a slow, decades-long process of exhuming all the dead from San Francisco's 30 cemeteries and sending them to a new resting place in Colma. Yes, they moved all the buried to Colma, which is a very, very small suburb in the peninsula, and they moved everyone out. There are only 3 cemeteries left in San Francisco. The military, the Golden Gate National Military Cemetery, the Pet Cemetery in the Presidio, and the cemetery Old Mission Dolores, which is a historical cemetery. That's it. That's all the cemeteries left. Everything else is moved to Colma, and they say there are more dead people in Colma than living, and that is true. The transition, of course, didn't go smoothly. While doing renovations in 1993, workers found 700 bodies buried underneath the Palace of Legion of Honor, some still holding their rosaries. Good gosh. So you know that there are hauntings there. I don't have any stories, but with 700, you know people have seen things or people have felt things. So I would suggest going for a run there and seeing what you can experience. Golden Gate Park. Golden Gate Park was created by William Hammond Hall out of the sand dunes in 1870. It's another prime spot for ghostly appearances. The ghostly policeman. Apparently, a policeman was giving out a ticket and then he was hit and killed by a car. This apparition has been reported by a number of people. He apparently pulls drivers over and gives them a traffic ticket. When they try to pay the ticket, they're told there is no record of it. The rest of the story is that the policeman who supposedly issued the ticket has been dead for years. Now, this one I don't know about, because is it really that believable? How do you get a ticket from a ghost? How do you get a paper from a ghost? How can a ghost hand you something real? I mean, come on, that's kind of silly, but that's the story. And I saw a bunch of videos on it. People really believe this and are scared of it. So you take it for what it's worth. Stowe Lake. Now, Stowe Lake has recently been renamed Blue Heron Lake due to past beliefs of the politician Stowe it was named after. But I will still call it Stowe Lake. It's like 6th Avenue in New York City. No self-respecting New Yorker calls it Avenue of the Americas. It's just how it is. It has its old name. You call it by the old name. This man-made lake has been a peaceful retreat for park goers since 1893. Except for the white lady, that is, who has been haunting it for 100 years. Now, this one is very, very famous, and I've heard this many, many times. The story goes like this. A young mother was walking around the lake pushing her baby in a stroller when she decided to sit on a bench and rest. She started chatting with another lady, and when she looked up, the stroller was gone. She spent the rest of the day in a panic, asking everyone, "Have you seen my baby?" But no one had. That is because the stroller had rolled away into the lake. When she finally realized that this must have happened, she walked into the lake herself and was never seen again. Well, never seen alive, I guess. She now haunts the lake on foggy nights, dressed in white from head to toe, and has been known to approach strangers asking if they've seen her baby. The Presidio. The Presidio was formerly a military post and has a number of haunted spots. A row of Civil War-era houses on Funston Avenue called Officers' Row were originally officers' quarters, but are currently being used for various nonprofits. Ghostly figures of uniformed men and women in long dresses have been reported on the porches and walking along the sidewalks after dark in this area. The grounds of the old Letterman Hospital, which had a reputation for being haunted after it was abandoned and sat derelict for years, is now the location of Lucasfilms and Industrial Light and Magic. I haven't heard of what was haunted about it, but I've heard that it is haunted. The San Francisco National Cemetery is nearby, where ghostly apparitions of soldiers and former hospital patients can appear. The Presidio Officers Club is apparently haunted as well. And if you want to stop by the Presidio Pet Cemetery, it's kind of a cool place to look. I like going there. It's a little sad, but it's also kind of sweet in a precious way. People really love their pets, and it's really kind of cool. I like it. And Crissy Field on the edge of the Presidio has had reports of strange sensations felt by people walking there. They describe a sudden feeling of heaviness, although they were being pulled into the earth. I've only felt that when I've been in a race too long and I'm very tired. I feel like my feet are heavy, like they're made of lead. But I don't think that has to do with an apparition. I feel like that has to do with I'm really tired. So I don't think that has anything to do with a ghost. But those are some different places that you can run past. And really, you could probably string all these together in one long run if you wanted to. I'm sure there are a ton more. There's been so much that has happened in the city. I know there are lots of things if you want to and just make a fun run out of it. Now, I would like to focus on singular areas in the future. Maybe next year I'll do one of a city in Europe or in Canada or in Asia. Who knows? I'll figure it out next year. Enjoy your Halloween. Have fun and have a good time, and don't eat too much candy, or is it too late for me to say that? Now remember, daylight savings time ends 2 a.m. on Sunday, November 3rd. Please be safe as it gets a lot darker on the streets and the trails, but especially on the streets. If you run roads, don't be like most San Francisco runners I see. Don't be opposed. Run opposite traffic, because most San Francisco runners run with traffic. I don't know why they do. Maybe they're new runners. They don't understand how things work. Run opposite traffic. Use headlights, for goodness sakes, and wear reflective clothing. Go earlier if you don't want to run in total dark, or get up in the morning and run in the morning when there are less people out. But still, wear reflective clothing, use a headlight, and run opposite traffic. Seriously, this is much, much better, much safer. I'm looking forward to the cooler weather myself. I'm looking forward to less crowds out. I'm looking forward to getting out in the rain and the cold. Really, I am. But I'm not looking forward to spending more time on the treadmill, because it's not necessarily safer to go out at night in my neighborhood. So I'm pretty much regulated to the treadmill after dark. It is what it is. I gotta do what I have to do, right? All the info is on the website, martharunstheworld.com. And that is it. So until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.